Punjab will go to the elections in 2022 with the farmers as decision makers. Their vote will determine the outcome, and this is a fact that all parties in the fray accept. The Congress is fighting itself, with the appointment of Navjot Singh Sidhu eating into the stability of Chief Minister Amrinder Singh. However, despite the face-off at this point, the ruling party in Punjab remains ahead, as Singh has extended full support to the farmers through these long months. The Akalis are working hard to regain their lost support, but their success is limited because of the perceived alliance with the BJP. AAP is not unpopular, but the Kejriwal magic has long since dissipated. The BJP, with just 3 legislators in the assembly, remains on the periphery because of the central government's refusal to withdraw the 3 farm laws. But then, it's 7 months to the elections, and in India, politics is a sliding floor.
Well, Punjab is going in for elections and you can feel the heat. Our guest this week is Naresh Gujral, Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament with the Akali Dal, and he's going to be speaking to us about what the immediate future will bring for Punjab. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, I remember reading a newspaper headline which said in 2013, which said that Modi trusts Naresh Gujral as his alliance person, the person who gets all the alliances together. Is that true even today?
That's history. We all know that.
Okay. So, well, obviously, you know the figures better than me, but the Congress from 4 seats went up to 77 seats in the last elections. The Akali Dal from 56 went down to 15, and the BJP from 12 went down to 3 in the last elections. So is that what we're going to see in these elections as well? Or do you think that the Akalis have any prospect of improving their chances?
Seema, let me make a few things very clear first. When you look at last numbers, don't look at only the number of MLAs. Please look at the vote share.
Okay.
When it came to the vote share, the differential between Congress and Akali Dal was about 5.5%. Primarily because some people in the BJP at the last moment panicked. They thought that we were history, and unfortunately, they transferred vote to Congress. Not just transfer their own votes, but I know for a fact that there was a lot of pressure on Ram Rahim also to have his vote bank vote for Congress. That made a huge difference of almost 2.5%. Had that not happened, if you look at the numbers, we lost almost 20 seats by a margin of less than 1,000 votes.
Okay.
So that tilted the balance completely. Otherwise, I'm not saying we would have formed the government, but we were certainly going to be somewhere in the 30s. This time on, the situation is changed drastically. Well, one telltale sign is that Prashant Kishore has today ditched the Congress. He hates to be on the losing side.
But that could also be because he prefers Sidhu to Amrinder Singh, So it isn't really an indicator that he's leaving the losing side.
He hates to be on the losing side, and he knows it.
Okay.
He's smart enough to know which way the wind is blowing.
But let me interrupt you here. If the wind is blowing for the Akali Dal, as you would say, or for the BJP, there is this huge farmer stir.
I will never overstate my case.
It's negative for you, hasn't it? I mean, in the sense that the farmers are finding a natural support at the moment from the Congress and Amrinder Singh.
Not really.
No?
The ground reality is not that.
Okay.
Whatever little surveys that we have done is not showing that at all. Number one. Number two, as I said, I am not overstating my case in any case. Still 7 months to go for polls. If you ask me, if elections were held today, The fight is between Akali Dal and AAP. Congress is a distant third. Now, it's very difficult to predict if elections were to be held today, who would have the majority? Perhaps nobody. That is also possible. But as I said, these are early days. We just made our first major announcements 2 days ago, and I know that those announcements are getting a lot of traction for us. Especially in the rural areas and amongst the poor. Now, the mistake that all journalists are making, you keep only talking of the farmer. Who is the farmer in Punjab? While there are Akali Dal is a farmers' party, we've always been a farmers' party. Our leadership comes from there. Our cadre comes from there. Yet, let me make a few things clear to you. The Jat Sikh today in Punjab is roughly about 28%. 28% is the total population, of which I would say people present in Punjab would not be more than 24-25% because many have migrated. Some of them come back at the time of elections, but that is it. 1/4 of the electorate is also, there's a huge force there who are the non-land holding people who work in the fields. The Jat doesn't work on the fields anymore. He has these Biharis working there. He has the Dalits working there. They are not holding the land. But again, your viewers would be surprised to know that the largest population of Dalits is in Punjab, 32%. And in Doaba, Punjab, as you know, is Malwa, Doaba, and Majha. In Doaba, which is the center, the Dalit population would be as high as 42 to 44%. And that was Mr. Kanshiram's base. He started his politics from there. What the factor that will count is which way do the Dalits vote. Now, in Punjab, of the 118 seats, roughly a third are reserved seats, which means only Dalits can fight there. So, we, Akali Dal, if you look at it that way, if you look at historically, we won elections twice in a row. We were supported by the Dalits because Mr. Prakash Singh Badal's program was always pro-poor and pro-Dalit, and that used to get him a lot of traction. And both times, if you see, we won almost 80 to 85% of the reserved seats, which would help us form the government. Now, this time...
That didn't happen last time.
As I said, two things happened. Number one, and let's be honest about it, Ram Rahim still controls a lot of votes there. His vote bank is Dalit vote bank. Number one. Number two, the traditional vote of Mayawati ji's party had moved away from them because they did not have a strong engine. A voter today does not like to waste his vote.
Absolutely.
So he or she, whereas at one stage they were about 7 to 9% of the vote share, started moving away from them. And election after election, we saw that they were moving away. And it shrank to almost 3 to 4% in Punjab. Now they find that they have a strong engine. And we have left 20 seats for BSP. So this Dalit consolidation is taking place again. And our program, as I said, part 13-point program was announced 2 days ago by Mr. Badal. It is completely pro-poor. And
I'm going to come back to you a little bit more on the vote share and how it's working, because you said something interesting about AAP and Akali's being in direct confrontation. But before that, to get away from the vote and think, what are the issues? Now, obviously, the farmers' issue is going to be the predominant issue in the coming elections. And that is where all the parties are going to be trying to get that vote, given the fact that that is the dominant vote. But the BJP has fallen foul of the farmers, and the Punjab farmers in particular are against it. So how is that going to work for your alliance?
First of all, as you know, we have given up our oldest relationship was with BJP from Mr. Vajpayee's time. We broke with them on the issue of the farmers, and our minister resigned from the cabinet.
Yes.
So we have distanced ourselves from BJP.
But there's not going to be an alliance for the coming elections, you think?
Well,
I thought, okay.
I'm accepting the fact that the farmers' vote will get divided. There's no doubt about it. Jat vote always gets divided. They have what they call in the villages dhadas, factions. So it is never one-sided. Number two, while it's important that the farm issue is concerning everybody in Punjab, but our initial surveys are showing that the main issue today is price rise, which is affecting people, is unemployment, which is affecting people, and the fact that the government programs or the promises that the government had made have not been kept. And they are very disillusioned by that. One thing they all remember, it's very interesting again, our initial surveys are showing the one program that they all remember is Mr. Badal's Atta Dal program, where we had promised and delivered atta at 4 rupees a kilo and dal at, atta at 2 rupees a kilo and dal at 4 rupees a kilo. And that had a resounding success, and people still remember that. Number two, people also remember the fact, as when we came to power, Punjab used to have 10 to 12-hour power cuts. We promised our people that we will make Punjab power surplus. When we left, there was no power, and now they've revisited that again.
Right.
If you have seen, up until 10 days ago, Punjab was facing huge power cuts. So it's total mismanagement by Congress, which is.
But politics, you know better than me, is all about perception. Promises of employment and price rise are promises that every government brings to the table, or every political party brings to the table, and when they become governments, they forget about it. So probably the same thing would happen now. So what would be that defining issue or the defining trend that could impact on the prospects of Akali Dal, AAP, since you were saying that it is growing and it could give the best fight to the Akali Dal, and the Congress? What is really going to turn the wheel, as it were?
Well, we have proved to the people of Punjab that when we were there was growth. We changed the shape of roads in Punjab, for example. Everybody knows that when we were in power, our roads were at par with Gujarat, if not better. Everybody knows that we converted a power deficit state into a power surplus state. There were no power cuts at all. Everyone knows that in those days, with our efforts, large corporations started coming to Punjab. And obviously they were coming because now we were power surplus state. There was no labor issues. So whether it was an ITC or Infosys or TCS, large corporations then started having in Punjab, which started to create or generate employment.
So do you think that there will be
that program?
Yeah, but that's of course. But do you think that there's going to be an adverse impact on the Congress because of the Amrinder Singh and Sidhu face-off, as it were, or the bad relations, or have they patched up? What do you feel from inside?
Look, Congress was in a pathetic state even before Mr. Sidhu was brought in. Now with this fighting, they are totally in the doghouse. So, they are history, as I said, and you will see that they will be number 3, and their numbers would be closer to what we are today.
What about AAP and Akali Dal striking an alliance?
So as I said, the fight is between the two of us.
No, but as a fight, can you ally?
Look, post-election, anything is possible in politics. You remember BJP and Communists had aligned in Mr. VP Singh's government. So anything can happen post-elections. But as things stand today, having said that, I must say, as I said, this is how the situation is today. 7 months from now, when elections take place,
meet again on that.
Nobody can say what will happen. And we have seen traditionally now that people give a decisive mandate. So we are hoping that we will again get that decisive.
So what's working for AAP in Punjab? I mean, considering they've tried so hard and they haven't really managed.
There is a section of people that believes that both the established parties of Punjab have let them down. I mean, I'm being very honest with you. There is a feeling there that they did not give, and I'm not saying that this is the overwhelming majority, but a large section does feel that way, and these are the sympathizers of AAP. But the last time on, and I have no hesitation in saying that, last time on at this time, there was a janoon for AAP. Now that is completely missing.
Yes.
Today, that is gone. And also don't forget, they have no leadership in Punjab. And people of Punjab do not like being dictated from Delhi. In fact, Congress has hurt itself now, having weakened Captain Amrinder Singh, because the diktat now comes from Delhi. And same way for AAP, it is Delhi that will decide the future of Punjab. And people of Punjab do not accept that.
Right. So good. This has been a nice sort of curtain raiser into what we can expect. And obviously some new equations are afoot depending on the results. We are going to be in touch with you again as the days roll by, because closer to the elections. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This time. Thank you. Well, there you have it. Punjab is going into the elections, and as Mr. Gujral said, if there was an election right now, there would be a hung house. Perhaps, perhaps not. But it is true that all the parties are going to be in pretty close competition as the days and months roll by towards the polls. The Congress is a divided house between Amrinder Singh and Sidhu, both at sort of loggerheads, and this will only increase. It's unlikely that will be patched up very easily. The AAP is in the fray, but it does not have a local leadership that is credible to the people of Punjab, and that is a big negative where this party is concerned. The Akali Dal, despite all the problems, is now focusing very heavily on the rural areas and trying to get back its lost constituency, particularly the farmers. And the Bharatiya Janata Party is definitely a little out on the periphery because of the opposition from the farmers who are agitating for the removal and the withdrawal of the 3 controversial farm laws and are targeting the BJP. Punjab is in the lead there. The farmers' vote is extremely important, and it is a vote that all the other 3 parties at least will be looking at. So let's see how this moves, but it's going to be interesting days ahead. Thank you. Bye.